Hey everyone, Crow here. Magic Pixel has gone ahead and released another 4 Postal tables for Zaccaria Pinball. Last year we got 4 tables based on Postal Redux, and now we've got a new bundle containing 4 tables based on Postal 2. And just like last time, the table pack will be $7.99 US, and this is for the Steam release. I've got no idea what the price will be on other platforms, but I'd assume it'd be the same. However, I did not pay for this table pack as a code was provided to me by Magic Pixel. The game Postal 2 was originally released in 2003 and was significantly different from the original game, as you now controlled Postal Dude in the first person and you had to complete a list of tasks to move on to the next day. During the events of each day, the Postal Dude would be thrown into a variety of absurd situations, and it was totally up to the player to decide how to handle each one. Whether or not you would take the pacifist approach, or just go in guns a-blazing in every situation. The game leans heavily into black comedy, so if that and immature humor aren't your thing, well then, the game won't be for you, and by extension, neither will this table pack. I'd known about the game, and I'd even seen footage of it, but I'd never played it myself. And after playing the 4 tables in this pack, I decided to play it a little bit since I had been gifted a code for the game on Steam from Running with Scissors back when the Postal Redux table pack was released. And wow is all I have to say. I only played 1 day in the game, and things certainly go in strange directions. Also, I really sucked at the game and I had to use a cheat code even to make it through the first day. But I'm glad I did play it because it helped to gain much context over the callouts, artwork, and game modes in this table pack. Just like with the Postal Redux pack, in this Postal 2 pack, you're going to get a retro table, a solid state table, a remake table, and a deluxe table. But you'll also get 3 new ball skins that are only available if you purchase this bundle. One additional detail I wanted to mention is that when you play any of these Postal 2 tables, the arcade machine that sits to the right of the table will be changed to a game called Bastard Fish. Now I thought that was pretty funny on its own, but it was even funnier when I found out it was taken straight from the game. Well, it's about time I think I talk about each of the tables, but I will have individual videos on each of the tables showing some gameplay and capturing my first impressions of each, so stay tuned for that. And with all that said, let's start with the retro table. As with all the other retro tables, this retro table resembles and plays like an EM table from the 50s or 60s, but this one has some modern enhancements like music and sound samples.
Holy shit!
The table itself has an interesting layout with 3 sets of flippers, one set in the usual position, but then another 2 sets further up the playfield. The upper flippers are more difficult to use, but you'll probably want to keep the ball high up on the table for as long as possible, not just because the lit spinner up there can be worth a ton of points, but mainly because the slingshots will often redirect the ball towards the out lanes. This is a table where nudging skills are absolutely required for a decent score. I can see where people wouldn't be a fan of this table, and although I do like it, it is my least favorite of the 4. The funny thing is that I actually got quite a bit obsessed with this one and I played it way longer than the other 3. I would often curse those out lanes, however I think if the ball didn't head for them so often, then this table would be far too easy. The only real complaint I have with this table is the voice samples. They're funny at first, but if you wind up playing this table again and again and again, it feels like you're hearing the same thing over and over and over again, and I think it just might be because some of the samples used are pretty long. It may not be that big of a deal, but when you lose your final ball, there's a lengthy clip, and you can't actually start a new game until the whole thing plays through.
Honey, I'm home. You won't believe the day I've had.
About friggin' time. Did you remember my rocky road?
Don't.
Hopefully you'll be able to skip it in a future update. And speaking of updates, there's actually a few bugs currently in this table that affect scoring, and that'll need to be fixed sometime in the future. I've talked to Magic Pixel about it, and they are aware of these issues, so maybe they'll be fixed sooner rather than later. Moving on to the solid state table, here we're getting an interpretation of what a Postal 2 themed table would have been like if it was made in the 80s. This time the theming is a little bit more specific as it revolves around the mall in the game, with Gary Coleman and Karachi figures standing near the top of the playfield. The main goal here is to collect money and then to purchase items. There's a spot on the table that'll give you $10 every time it's hit, and the amount of money you currently have is displayed on the apron. However, you can only have a maximum of $100 at any one time.
Crap.
Right below the crotchy figure is the hole you need to hit in order to purchase items. The first item costs $20 and will award you 50,000 points. The second time you hit the hole, you'll have to spend $50, and this will award you the Gary Coleman multi-ball mode. This sends an additional ball onto the playfield for 2-ball multi-ball, and also the spinner scores are doubled. This is only the second solid-state table in Zaccaria Pinball to have any kind of multi-ball. The other one was Stars Phoenix. The third and final item will cost $100 and will award a whopping 300,000 points. Aside from the main goal, there are the grenade launcher holes at the top of the playfield that will award 10,000 points and advance the bonus score when both are lit. And then there are the shotgun shots in the center of the playfield that will award you with 35,000 points and advance the bonus score when both shots are made. I thought the layout of those shots were actually pretty cool. There are also 2 spinners on the table worth 100 or 1,000 points depending on if they're lit or not. One will always be lit, and about every 30 seconds they will alternate. And you know what? I really like this table. It's actually my favorite out of all 4. I thought the concept of earning money and buying things was simple, but also very fun. The only downside is with the hole you need to hit to purchase the items. For some reason, it's kind of a tough shot to make, and sometimes the ball doesn't stick in the hole. Also, when the ball is ejected, it heads right in between the flippers, so I always wind up having to nudge after the ball is released to prevent the ball from draining. And I don't believe that any game should eject the ball back into the playfield in a manner that could drain the ball without interfering by nudging. It's a minor flaw, but I still found the table incredibly fun. The Remake table is done in the style of a table you would have found in the early 90s up to about the 2010s. You've got a DMD display, ramps with ball returns, extended ball saves, multi-ball, and game modes to complete. This table in particular focuses on the groups that will eventually get angry and attack the Postal dude during the course of the game. Each game mode revolves around one of these groups. You'll go up against video game protesters, book protesters, rednecks, meat protesters, and mail carriers. Starting each mode is very simple, as all you have to do is repeatedly shoot the hate shot until the mode starts. And I have to say that this table has some of the funniest voice samples in the whole collection, as each of the protest groups has their own chant they call out while their mode is active, taken straight from the game. I personally thought the chant of the meat protesters was the most humorous though.
No more beef! Move! No more beef! Move.
Nice catch.
Another thing I'll say about this table is it has a very nice flow to it. The ramp and orbit shots are very easy to make, and the ball just kind of glides around the table so smoothly. I think this is one of Zaccaria's best remake tables so far. I really can't think of anything negative to say about this one. I never really got frustrated, and it was so satisfying to make shot after shot just to see the ball kind of fly around the table with ease. The final table here is the Deluxe table, and keeping in line with other Zaccaria Deluxe tables, it has a video display, multiple levels, and a lot of flippers. But you know what? I think they toned down the amount of things they usually cram into these types of tables, and as a result, I think this is one of the best Deluxe tables so far. Well, at least that's one of the reasons. They've also thrown something new that hasn't been done yet in Zaccaria Pinball, and that's a video display on the apron. But to be honest, I didn't even notice it was a video display during the time I played because it only shows static images. This table is focused on the element of the game that involves accomplishing all your given tasks and moving on to the next day and repeating the process. The video display kinda shows you the list of those tasks as well as the map, but it's not really necessary. I think it's just there to represent what those things look like in the game. But here's the thing which I think is really awesome about this table. You don't have to start game modes. As soon as you launch the ball, you're immediately doing the Monday tasks. When the Monday tasks are done, you're immediately doing the Tuesday tasks. What this does is ensure that you're always trying to make different shots instead of shooting the same shot over and over and over again just to start a game mode. It makes the table much more interesting to play. There are also a few other game modes in this table, and if one is activated, you'll have to finish that game mode before continuing with your daily tasks. And if I've got one complaint about this table, that would be it. I haven't seen any tables yet in Zaccaria Pinball that let you stack game modes, and this would have been the perfect table to do that on. And finally, you've got the upper playfield, and that's access through the Meat World shot. And it's actually so far up over the lower playfield, it doesn't block your view of anything. Well, at least in the game's camera view that I use. But overall, this is a great table. And that'll wrap it up for the Postal 2 table pack. I think this pack is really fantastic. Each table included is one of the best in each of the categories they represent, and I wouldn't hesitate to recommend this pack to anyone, except if you really don't like the theme, and I can understand if you don't. The Postal games are full of black comedy and controversial situations, but if you're okay with that, at $7.99 or less even if the pack goes on sale, you're getting a great bundle of tables here despite a flaw here or there. And as I mentioned earlier, there will be separate videos on each table, and I filmed those before making this video, so those are my initial takes on each one, so stay tuned for that. And that'll wrap things up here. See y'all next time.